Glenn Jones and his employer, the proprietors of Rakaia Incorporated, share the same priorities, looking after the land and the importance of long-term investment in people. Hororata Dairy 3 gave Glenn and his partner Sarah the opportunity to progress rapidly in the dairy industry.
Hororata Dairy 3 is owned by the proprietors of Rakaia Incorporation, a Maori incorporation that was incorporated back in 1875, I think was the date, and it was originally the land owned by 27 Maori families, and those land areas were at Dorrie in mid-Canterbury.
Find the biggest beak?
Glenn and Sarah had the skill set that the incorporation were looking for. They had the motivation to do it, they had the finance to do it, which is important as well. We expect a lot of our share milkers, they run it within bounds that we set. And we might catch up every month, 6 weeks. Not so much looking back, we're looking, what's going to happen in the next month, 2 months, 3 months. The incorporation have a long-term goal to own 27 farms. That's a 200-year plan. We're at number 3. This is probably we're probably going to tread water around this for 5 or 10 years before they look again. But they're pretty happy with their entry into dairy farming 20 odd years ago, and the business has performed really well.
So we're about 175 hectares effective irrigated dairy farm. We peak milk 650 cows through a 40-a-side herringbone, centrally located. Yeah, great wee farm. There's been some significant improvements in irrigation. The main centre pivot had some re-nozzling, new set of nozzles on it, more efficient. New centre pivot out the back on previous dry land, and 15 hectares of fixed grid sprinkler irrigation. We've started an aggressive regrassing program of 30% of the farm per season. There's some improvements to the cow shed, new concrete exit race, new calf sheds, some new implement sheds. Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. It's a really good herd, but it's still a young herd. There's 522 and 3-year-olds in there. I grew up in a herringbone, and my father milked in a herringbone for his whole life. I really enjoy it. It's maybe not as efficient as a rotary on a large number of cows, but it's a great environment for training staff. I get to milk with every one of my staff during the week, and during that period we talk about anything from animal health to finances to feed budgeting, and rugby, of course. Tatiana, our 2 ICs, this is her 3rd year with us, and the other 2 are with their 2nd season. They've committed to coming back next season as well. 2 Colombians and a Scotsman. We've also got a part-time girl from Ireland here at the moment as well. They're a great team of guys and great fun to be around. Carry on with the planting along the north boundary. So we get that contracted out to get planted this winter, and there'll probably be pines along the north boundary, and then we'll look to do native.
Last July I started the agribusiness management course through ARA in Christchurch, and the first paper was staffing management and health and safety, and so from that I implemented and transferred it to our own business, Waterton Agricultural Limited. So I've made policies and procedures, standard operating procedures for the dairy shed, on the farm, and also our animal health. These have been transferred from my nursing career, just with the policies in place that we have in the health sector. Vet wash procedures, effluent management plans are all in here. We've got a calving, policies and procedures, and also just animal health treatments for mastitis and lame cow. These are all live documents, so our staff are encouraged, and they write on it and make changes if something's not right, and I just update it. I get up pretty early, 4 o'clock in the morning, while Esme's still asleep, and I do a few hours in the office each morning. I find it easier to do it when she's not around, and I don't feel guilty that I'm not playing with her, and off exploring.
And we did a further plant along paddock 1 boundary as well, all the way up to the cow shed. We're doing an aggressive pasture renewal program here. We're aiming to do 25 to 30% of the farm per season for the first 3 years to bring it up to a higher level. We also grow 7.5 hectares of fodder beet, and this is used for supplement in the autumn and also to transition them going forward for the winter. We've also got another 7 hectares of kale on farm that will be used for the dry cows when they return home from winter grazing in the spring. We purchase about 600 kgs of supplement per cow as the budget. That's made up of barley, PK and some silage. In terms of the environment with this farm, it's probably more about just doing the basics and doing them really well. We're applying different fertiliser rates to our effluent area and non-effluent area. We've started a process of soil testing every paddock annually for the first 3 years, so we can build up a really clear picture of our farm's fertility and fertilise accordingly. Also, other things behind this fodder beet here in the autumn will sow a catch crop, so it'll be a triticale or an oats crop to soak up that surplus nitrogen through the winter rather than letting it leach out of a fallow paddock. We're also doing 3 and 2 milking, which is great, so that's 25% less effluent, and that's 25% also less shed waste as well coming out. And by feeding the fodder beet through autumn as well, that'll lower the nitrogen content of the urine as well. We've started planting the farm in a few natives here and there. We've planted 300 plants this season. It's only a small number, but it's a step in the right direction, and if we can carry on this every season, it's going to make a big impact. And looking forward, we're planning on doing a lot more shelter planting, particularly around the boundary. A lot of benefits to that too. It's going to give us an extra buffer as far as biosecurity goes, and then it's going to be great for a ring of shelter for those hot days or those cold days as well. We don't want any waste buried on farm, and that's in working with the owners. That's their long-term outlook on the farm. So string and plastic is with Plasback. All dead cows are taken off farm to a rendering plant. Scrap metal through a scrap metal dealer, and we're also involved with another group of farms in an enviro waste and recycling collection for household and shed rubbish as well. Long term, we'd like to carry on in the dairy industry and keep the great skill set and partnership we've got, and you know, maybe look to some other involvement in some other farms in the future. And we're pretty open what avenue whether that's ownership or further share milking options. We're pretty open to how that goes.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.